Hello friends. If you're around my age or grew up in the time I did, you're very familiar with the scenery in the background and the term Diablo 2. The sights, the sounds, the familiar feelings, characters, world, and abilities that drew you in. Diablo 2 is one of the first games I truly unleashed my full power level on when it came to degen gaming at a young age during its release. Funny that here I sit many years later just as excited to do the same thing again, and I want to share that excitement with all of you. Because I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you why you should be playing Project Diablo 2. Project Diablo 2 is a mod for the original Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction expansion. It's made by a team of passionate and kind developers who have fostered a wonderful community of gamers that adore this game and play it with a next level of passion. I've played this mod for years since around Season 4, and every update it gets better and more interesting. I was fortunate enough to participate in the closed beta testing for this season, and through that I not only met many awesome people from the community who were kind and welcoming, but several of the devs themselves who were fun to talk to and extremely generous and kind and interested in my thoughts on mechanics in the game. Project Diablo 2 feels like what would have happened if Diablo 2's development team stayed on the game, innovating, creating, and moving it forward. Unlike a lot of the other mods I've tried or heard of, this mod is very simple. It's straightforward and doesn't feel too extreme or ridiculous, or like things get completely out of hand too quickly. It still feels like Diablo 2 at its core and at the end of the day. But don't get me wrong, Project Diablo 2 isn't short on features at all. Let's get into what's new for you Diablo veterans, and even for those of you looking at the game for the first time. We'll start with the favorite of all ARPG veterans, loot and itemization. Items are in a great place in Project Diablo 2. Not only are there several new uniques and new rune words creating dozens of possibilities and new builds you can play, but original and older uniques and rune words have been updated and or changed to make them relevant and bring new options to life in the game. Even on their wiki, you can go through the rune word page and find dozens of instances of old values versus the new. Some uniques are even build enabling for some classes or buff up new builds that weren't possible or viable before. It's truly a heaven for those of you that love item variety and build variety, creating one of the best ARPG experiences possible by continually monitoring what items are either overpowered or underpowered and tuning them per season. This also increases their economic value as well, meaning several items that aren't useful or worth anything in regular Diablo 2 are actually valuable here. Even some high runes have increased in value due to new rune words and their capabilities. Now the cherry on top of all these new items and new options, which there are too many to list in one short video, is corruptions. The new item Worldstone Shards, a global drop item, when cubed together with other items, corrupts it in an unpredictable way. Path of Exile veterans already know the term slamming, but this is one everyone playing Project Diablo 2 will become familiar with very quickly. Worldstone Shards allow you to corrupt a new positive affix onto an item, especially unique. It can offer new levels of power or small bonuses, some things as small as a resistance, or as big as a faster cast rate buff, or even a plus to all skills. This not only creates a system where items that aren't as valuable can be given extreme value, but it adds Worldstone Shards as a bubblegum currency to Project Diablo 2, something the series was missing when it came to economic option, as it only operated on runes previously. Items become next level when corrupting them is always an option, but be careful, you can turn a unique back into a rare instead of it becoming good. Is the risk worth it to you? Well, only one way to find out. So moving on to other new systems, let's talk about something else very important to ARPG veterans, endgame. When you think of endgame in original Diablo 2 or even in D2R, it's a lot of the same we've experienced. However, in Project Diablo 2, we've been granted maps and a mapping system. Project Diablo 2 has its own map pool of various maps, all beautifully designed with their own layouts, special unique bosses, and a host of buffs to monsters and debuffs to players that can roll on these maps. The maps are gorgeous and they feel like Diablo. Maps can be normal, magic, or rare, and gain more affixes per tier. They can also be buffed with certain items and can be corrupted for unpredictable results. You can visually see monster density, EXP, gold, and magic find bonuses on the map. Your maps can be rolled and re-rolled, and you can find them from monsters globally once you reach a certain point in hell. The mapping system brings new life to the game, a new way to farm and acquire EXP and currency, a new fresh look at what endgame can be, something that should be familiar to Path of Exile players. There's even a set of unique maps that have very special drops, usually guaranteed within them and their own challenges. On top of this, events can spawn in your maps and have various effects and great options for a little extra juice. One of them even drops shards that lets you guarantee random events on your maps. One's a map inside a map, one's loot goblins. There's quite a few fun things that just add more joy and stuff to do. On the tip-top end, if you're a group player, there's even tier 4 maps known as dungeons, created by using a Haradrim Scarab with a T3 map. These are extremely difficult challenges designed for optimized groups built around each other's capabilities and offer high reward for a high challenge. Now on top of maps, there's other endgame that's still present. You can still farm Mephisto if you're an old school Sorc gamer. Traversal farming for gold and loot is still present, and Project Diablo 2 has 2 more tricks up its sleeve. There's corrupted zones, which you can see once you kill Hellbale. A chat announcement when you join a game will notify you which zone is corrupted. The zone becomes level 85 and has highly increased drop rates of Worldstone Shards. Also being level 85 means better tier loot. Even outside of corruption zones, Project Diablo 2 has altered several of the zones in Hell difficulty to be defaulted to level 85 at all times, allowing you to always have a good place pre-maps to farm, picking which one lacks immunities that'll brick your build and farming there until you can get the right gear to start pushing into maps and blasting. And we can't talk about endgame without talking about bosses. They're still the tried and true
true Uber Tristram, which still offers up a Hellfire Torch, but now also a Black Soulstone, one of the items used to summon the new Diablo clone fight, a completely redesigned and more challenging version of the original with multiple phases. This fight and all fights I'll mention going forward have 3 difficulties: T0, T1, and T2. D-Clone drops Nihilus, a coveted staple reward for every build in the game. T1 and T2 difficulty, however, can also drop Uber uniques, special uniques that are exceedingly rare even from the boss and offer insane power to certain builds and players. Though most players are unlikely to see one, they're an extremely cool system for endgame chase. A new boss is the Rathma fight, another Uber boss that takes multiple items to summon and has his own special loot, a Tainted Worldstone Shard, which lets you corrupt your Annihilus charm, offering things like additional vitality, energy, resistance, experience, or another +1 to all skills, or bricking it back into a rare. There's even a new boss named Lucian who offers a tons of loot chests at the end of his fight, as well as an altar where you can corrupt an already corrupted amulet a second time, allowing for some really crazy possibilities, or another chance at bricking it. And from what I've heard, the chance to brick it goes down the higher difficulty of him that you beat. Now for another portion of a great ARPG, let's look at classes, skills, and character power. In Project Diablo 2, not only have skills been heavily rebalanced, synergies reimagined and retuned, but completely new abilities have been added and old underutilized abilities changed or buffed. And when looking at things like a tier list that people make, the difference between an S tier and A tier build is actually so minimal people won't notice. You can play so many different abilities and styles in Project Diablo 2, it has some of the most build variety of any ARPG on the market right now. Do you want to be a Poison Strike Necro? It's really good and works from level 1. You want to be a Throw Barb? It's awesome, the throws bounce now, and you can even add rune words into throwing weapons as of Season 11. Summon Amazon with more Valkyries and decoys? Yep, that's a great build. Holy Bolt Paladin that heals allies as it does damage? Yep, that's fun and it's possible. There's so many new builds and options and ways to play the game, solo or in a group. Your only issue will be deciding on which one you want to play because they're all kind of fun. Even all the old staples like Hammerden, Thunderfury Zon, and Frozen Orbsork work better here than they did before. Character power feels well balanced. Advantages and disadvantages are present accordingly across all classes. Nothing really feels so distinctly weak or strong over others, and the cost associated with reaching some of the more powerful build levels and gear makes it reasonable for them to be as strong as they are. There will always be a meta, but Project Diablo 2 takes great strides to never let it become stagnant or anything overly represented. So last but not least, let's go to one more major feature, and that's trade. Trade is a staple, important part of any ARPG, and it's where the majority of the player base ends up. And while most ARPG trade is either really good or really bad, Project Diablo 2 trade is fantastic for the game it is. They have their own trading site tied in with their own website. This trade site pulls data directly from your stash, letting you list items directly from it and pick prices as well as search for items, finding ones people have listed with a very customizable filtration system to determine exactly what you're looking for. You can search for items, materials, runes, services, pretty much whatever you would trade for normally. It lets you message someone in-game automatically, much like the Path of Exile trade system. And this gets us on the topic of the trading in the community. If you've never played Project Diablo 2, you'll be surprised and a little hesitant, but the vast majority of trades here are done by just dropping the item on the ground. The community of Project Diablo 2 is tight-knit, and the moderation team takes any scamming or stealing extremely seriously. If you were to scam or steal during a trade, they would just ban you and give the item back to the person. This took me some getting used to initially, as I came from the original Diablo 2 where everyone tried to rob everyone half the time, or so it seemed. Over here, it's just the standard to trust and drop items and say thank you, good luck, and move on with your day. And I have to say, it gives me a really fuzzy feeling knowing a community like this exists these days. This is held up by the community standards of everybody holding each other accountable and by the moderation team doing an excellent job. Now, as our final set piece on these options is why you should be playing this mod now, and especially on the new season launch on the 16th of May, is the quality of life changes. There's a lot here, I probably won't be able to cover all of them, but let's go through what I can. Graphics are a topic many bring up, as D2R gave a lot of people a taste of very modernized Diablo 2 graphics. They shudder at the thought of the original. However, I'll say even as someone who cares very little for graphics, granted I grew up with this game, the graphics of Project Diablo 2 were highly enhanced over the original. OpenGL graphics are active, and dozens of customizable sliders to make sure your game looks the way you want it to can be achieved. Even capping or uncapping your FPS however you like. Next up, let's talk mercenaries. Mercenaries have actually been fully revamped, and they now have their own different auras. The auras are the same across difficulties, and there's even Act 4 mercenaries that do either Holy Bolts and Sanctuary or Bone Spells and Curses. They've also expanded equipment options, and when you hire a new mercenary without unequipping your old one, all the gear just drops on the ground instead of being deleted. Mercenaries can equip gloves, belts, and boots now, and have an insane variety of options given the new rune words available to them. This opens mercenary options up vastly and further increases player agency on how you approach the game. Item bases can be upgraded using perfect gems and runes, so you can get more defense or damage on lower base uniques. A new item that drops is Larzik puzzle boxes, and they can add sockets to existing gear. Jewels can be melted in the cube into jewel fragments which stack and used in place of jewels for crafting. Speaking of which, crafting has been overhauled with new recipes and tons of options. The cube is bigger, your inventory is bigger, and has a dedicated charm section so that you don't have to choose between power and space. Tomes can now hold up to 80 scrolls, and there's even super rare tomes with infinite uses. All socketables and currencies now stack. Bosses drop essences that can be combined to create full respec tokens which can be sold or purchased between players, so you aren't limited to 3 respecs per character. You can see lobbies in the game regardless of difficulty and filter between them. Games become permanent after 2 minutes, meaning you can leave and rejoin that same game after 2 minutes of it being up, even if you are the only one in it. The stash has been massively expanded with several tabs between characters and a personal tab per character. And as of Season 11, we are getting a currency tab, where all currency items like runes, gems, rejuvenation potions, and all the new Project Diablo 2 currency are held. They even auto-deposit when you shift-click them into your stash regardless of what tab you're looking at. There's even a DPS meter for you MMO addicts and theory crafters, the status of how many potions are in your belt so you don't have to keep count, the ability to set an act as your home location with a command, meaning you always end up there when you restart the game regardless of what act you're in, showing health and mana always, showing an experience meter with EXP per hour and percent of level, quick cast on skills allowing it to just be a press of a button and it casts the ability instead of having to select it and then right click, a skill bar to show which skills are assigned and what key they're on and the cooldown if they have one, a buff timer to know exactly how long your buffs have left, an advanced character panel to look at all the stats of your character and even cast rate, attack rate, and hit recovery breakpoints for optimization, and can also be used for your mercenary. And of course, a favorite feature, a loot filter. The coveted and lovely feature all ARPGs should have. Project Diablo 2 hosts a variety of different loot filters made and kept up to date by several generous and wonderful people in the community. There's an option on your launcher before you start the game, and you can even tone up and down their strictness in the options real time. This feature is so insanely good for quality of life because another QOL feature, especially for solo players, is loot is set to 5 players on Project Diablo 2, so you'll always be getting more loot than you would normally. This makes the loot filter a must and the process of gearing much more fast and fun. There's dozens of other small QL changes, but new this season is WASD support and even controller support. I've been able to test out both and they feel surprisingly good for a Diablo 2 mod of all things. I actually ordered a new controller just for this mod because mine is 10 years old. WAS felt good, but controller also felt extremely good and that surprised me the most. Especially on more melee-centric builds, it feels genuinely fantastic and easy to use and very smooth. Project Diablo 2 is a passion of mine, one I want to share with everyone I talk to about ARPGs. It genuinely feels like the love and care for the game is shown in every change and the continued updates made by the team behind it. I always give a special mention to devs that are just chill gamers themselves and want to see and play fun and engaging ARPGs. These guys are just that, and they've created something everyone who loved Diablo can truly enjoy. Project Diablo 2 Season 11 launches on May 16th. You need a legal copy of Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction to play it, and it's worth every moment. The mod itself is obviously free, and you can support the dev team through donations or Patreon, which I have no problem doing given the amount of hours I've sunk into this mod over my lifetime. I can't express properly in words how much I love this mod and how thankful I am that it exists. Being able to revisit my favorite childhood game in such a way has been extraordinary. I'll be playing it and streaming it for hours and hours and hours upon launch, probably in a very unhealthy way, but it just sucks me in like that. And I hope you'll join me in playing this game, and I hope you'll come and say hi. And I hope this video has shown you why you should be playing Project Diablo 2. Anyway, I'm Sleepy Cat. I'm tired. Good night.